So today I've taken on the task of ranking all of the Genesis albums. A really big task. I spent maybe 2 or 3 weeks listening to all of them, everything from the Peter Gabriel years up to the Phil Collins period, and there were a couple. Actually, there was one album like without either of them, but I will be talking about all of them. There are 15 albums, and spanning from, I think it was like 1969 up to 1997. They've had a very long career. They've gone through many changes. So I'm just covering 15 studio albums, no live albums, no EPs or anything like that. So let me just jump right into it. Coming in at number 15 is Calling All Stations from 1997. This is their 15th album, their last album. Phil Collins was not in the band. So the lineup, we had Tony Banks on keyboards, Mike Rutherford on guitars and bass, and Ray Wilson on vocals. Ray Wilson was a newcomer. He was actually like a grunge band like before that. And songs were very generic, like radio rock songs. Not really any songs really stood out. The album got a lot of poor reviews from critics, and it did not really sell that well, so that's why I have it at the bottom, number 15. At number 14, I'm going all the way to their first album, From Genesis to Revelation. This one came out in 1969. It was their debut, and the band had not really developed their progressive rock sound. The album was not really like successful. It kind of had more of like a commercial sound from what was being played in 1969. So the album has Peter Gabriel, Tony Banks, Anthony Phillips, and Mike Rutherford, and John Silver. The album has 13 songs. They've released 3 singles, The Silent Sun, The Winter's Tale, and Where the Sour Turns to Sweet. It's an okay album, but there's nothing that really like stands out on it. Coming in at number 13 is Trespass from 1970. Their second album is a big improvement over the first one, and the band started to write like longer progressive rock songs. So this is where they kind of like start to find their sound. There were 6 songs on the album, and the best song is the last one, called The Knife. A really great progressive rock song. It incorporated a little bit of those like hard rock guitars, and that song is a classic. The other songs didn't really like stand out for me. That's why I have it ranked low, and plus the other albums are a lot better. Coming in at number 12 from 1976 is Wind and Wuthering. This is their 8th studio album, the last with Steve Hackett. The second from the Phil Collins period, and it was released the same year as A Trick of the Tail. That one I do have ranked a lot higher. So at this time the band was a 4-piece, has Collins, Hackett, Rutherford, and Banks. This album, again, it's okay, but there are not any like real songs that stand out on the album. The song All in the Mouse's Night was pretty cool, based on the Tom and Jerry cartoon, but it's just an okay album. Coming in at number 11 is The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway from 1974. This is their 6th studio album. It's a double album, and it's a concept album. In my opinion, it was very long. It's over 90 minutes. The songs were not very memorable. So the best song, and probably the most well-known, is The Carpet Crawlers, and pretty cool song. It tells a story, and it's often like played live. And this would have been a really good concept album if they kind of like trimmed it down a bit. Also, the last album to feature Peter Gabriel. This is when he went on his solo career after this. So that's at number 11, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. At number 10 is And Then There Were Three from 1976. Actually, it was 78, I believe. The first album as a 3-piece with Collins, Banks, and Rutherford. This is when Steve Hackett left. The album is a little different. This is when they start to kind of like find their sound and move into that like Phil Collins period of that like 80s sound. Shorter songs, a little less of that like progressive rock, but it still has that. It's very keyboard heavy, and it is closer to that like 80s sound. The album did have a big hit called Follow You, Follow Me. That's probably like the best song on the album. Other than that, the album is pretty good. I like the song The Lady Lies. That one has a pretty cool progressive rock feel to it. Coming in at number 9 is We Can't Dance from 1991. So this album was released in the middle of the grunge years. So I remember when the song I Can't Dance premiered on MTV. I thought it was kind of cool. It did have like a hard rock guitar sound that kind of like stood out for me. But the album does have some good ones. It has the hit ballad Hold On To My Heart. It has Jesus He Knows Me. and it has No Son of Mine. That was a song about like domestic abuse. This was a pretty good album, and just like the other ones were a lot better. I think like all the albums like from here on in are like really like top-notch albums. Coming in number 8 is Foxtrot from 1972. This is from the Peter Gabriel years, their 4th studio album, right after Nursery Cryme. And this one is good, not as good as Nursery Cryme, which I will talk about later. It has their longest song called Supper's Ready. That's a very popular song amongst Genesis fans. 23 minutes long, has like 7 different parts. But my favorite song is Watcher in the Skies. It's a kind of a long progressive rock song. It's about like 7 minutes or so. It has some like pretty cool like heavier sections, and I always thought this would be like a good song for like a progressive metal band to cover. So maybe like a band like Dream Theater, I think they would do a really great version of Watcher in the Skies. And this album has a 5-man lineup of Banks, Hackett, Collins, Gabriel, and Rutherford. Coming in number 7 is Invisible Touch from 1986. So this is probably like their most popular album, has that 80s sound. It's filled with lots of hits, and this is probably the one album that probably like most people know. The most memorable song was Land of Confusion. That had a really great music video. It was played a lot on MTV back in the day, had a really like, a political theme to it. It has those puppets, really great video. Tonight, that's a really great song. I really like the percussion on that one. It has a hit ballad, Into Deep. That's really another great song. And it's the album the band is probably most known for, but not their best. There are a couple other ones that I did have. At number 6 is Duke from 1980. So this is their 2nd album as a trio. This album is a mixture of that like classic progressive sound with the newer 80s sound. It has 2 of their like best songs, Turn It On Again and Misunderstanding. Those are really great like pop songs, really super memorable songs. Really great vocal performance by Phil Collins in those songs. And this album has some like longer progressive rock songs as well as like the album closer, like Duke's Travel and Duke's Ends. So both of those songs totaled 10 minutes. Coming in number 5 is A Trick of the Tail. This is from 1976. So this is their 7th album. This is the first with Phil Collins on lead vocals. It was a very successful album. My favorite song was called Squonk. It's kind of based on some kind of like mythical creature, but I really like the thick bass sound in this, and a really great like progressive rock song. And this is a progressive rock album. And this is where you do hear to start like little hints of that like new era of Genesis, like what we call the Phil Collins era. So some of the other great songs are Dance on a Volcano and Los Endos. So I like those songs. Coming in at number 4 is Nursery Cryme from 1971. This is their 3rd studio album. It was a really great album, also a landmark album, the first with Phil Collins and Steve Hackett. Peter Gabriel is still lead vocalist here, but Phil Collins did sing on one song, For Absent Friends. And he also did some vocals on Harold the Barrel and Harlequin. Now, one of the most popular songs from this album is called The Musical Box. It's a 10-minute, like very epic progressive rock song, telling a story about like a music box in Victorian times. Probably the song that I like the best is Harold the Barrel, kind of a shorter song. I think it's like 3 minutes, but pretty cool like prog rock song, nice tempo changes, really nice melody to that one. Coming in at number 3 is the self-titled Genesis from 1983. This is a really great album, just filled with hit after hit. Starts with Mama. That's a really great song. Has a really hauntingly beautiful percussion to that song. It has a song That's All. That's a very popular song. Home by the Sea and the follow-up Second Home by the Sea. Those 2 songs are really awesome. This is one of the best like side A's of any like rock band, but the album does take a little dip on side B with Illegal Alien. That was kind of a hit. I really don't like that song as much. It's probably the reason why I didn't have this at 2 or 1. But the rest of the songs on side B are pretty good, and as an album as a whole, it is a very strong album. So I like this. At number 3 is Genesis from 1983. Coming in at number 2 is Selling England by the Pound from 1973. So this is their 5th studio album. In my opinion, the best of the Peter Gabriel years. This one has the classic 5-man lineup of Gabriel, Banks, Hackett, Rutherford, and Collins. Probably my favorite song is The Cinema Show. Really 10-minute epic prog rock masterpiece. The opening track, Dancing with the Moonlit Knight, is a really great song. There's lots of melody in that one. Firth of Fifth, that's really has one of their classic sound, kind of almost like a medieval sound to it, but it is a progressive rock. One of my other favorites is the Battle of Ebbing Forest, and this is their longest song, but it does have everything you want in a progressive rock epic. So it comes to my number one. It's Abacab from 1981. You might be surprised that I have this at number one, but this is the one that I just like the best. It's their 11th album. Begins with a title track, Abacab, my favorite song. There is like a shorter single version, but I really like the extended version on the album. It's like 7 minutes, and like just those last like 3 minutes of all instrumental. I really love that, just that keyboard sound. It also has No Reply at All. Well, this is one of those with that classic Genesis sound. That one has some lots of horns in it. You know, Phil Collins was a fan of Earth, Wind & Fire, and he uses actually the same horn, you know, musicians that Earth, Wind & Fire used. And Me and Sarah Jane, it's a great song, and just the rest of the album, just one after the other, I just like love this album, and this is the one that stuck with me. That's what I have at number one. So that is it. So give me your list below if you want to comment, or give me your top five, or just comment anything you thought that would have had higher or lower if you disagreed with anything. So let me know in the comments section. So that's all for today. Tomorrow I'm going to have some heavy metal with some Metal Church, do an anniversary album review of The Dark. And on Thursday I have a Led Zeppelin top 10, but it's going to be, I'm doing it a little different, something new that I'm trying out a new series, so stick around for that. And then once the weekend comes, more new releases. So everybody, thanks for watching. I also did a top 10 Genesis songs with AYBL Main. If you're interested, it's a 30-minute video. You know, we do our top 10. I will link that right there. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.